The 10-minute drill.
This is a big one.
Covered by Universal Roof and Contracting. The difference is Universal.
On 1010XL.
Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Hit it.
All right, sports concepts and rationalizations coming your way right now. We call it the 10-minute drill. Let me get the poll question out real quick. It's our daily drill poll question of the day. It's presented by Rich Safety, Florida's trusted personal protection equipment provider. The FHSAA meets today. What happens with high school fall sports? Are they going to start it up Aug 24 as planned? Are they going to delay it again? Are they going to go with option 3, which really pushes everything back, fall, winter, spring, into next summer? Or are they going to cancel fall sports? Right now we have 250 votes at Dan Hicken if you'd like to vote. And it's pretty split, man. I mean, 29.2 think they'll cancel. I don't think they'll cancel. 27.9 say start it up Aug 24. 27.5 say delay it again. 15.5 say option 3, not till November.
I'd like to take get an interview session with Pac-12 and Big Ten football players if, as it's set up now, we get to November and high school is played, and pros are playing, and the SEC's playing, and the ACC's playing.
Well, if that happens,
the college kids, I was thinking this as I drove home yesterday. I'm watching a Pop Warner team out practicing over in my area. And so I was driving wondering, I just sitting there thinking that the colleges are the ones getting squeezed. The division above them, the professionals playing, and the division below them, even more amateurs playing.
Yeah.
And here are us. I just want to make one thing clear on the FSU story.
Oh, yeah.
If FSU is testing players and not telling them they're positive, then they should get the death penalty. They should be put on probation for 5 years. No bowl, no nothing. That's worse than recruiting. Okay. So if that indeed is what's happening at FSU, if that's accurate, if they had a player that they knew was positive and didn't tell him and sent him out to practice, then the ramifications should be far bigger than a social media blitz. And so I think FSU realizes that. And Norvell should be fired if that's the case.
Right.
If you are keeping a positive test result from one of your own players and then further putting him with other players, then you are you're in the wrong job.
Yeah, it's
so and that seems to be how this thing is being presented so much that I feel there's got to be at least somewhat of another side. That is so egregious that it's hard to believe.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. There just seems to be so far, and again, there's two sides to every story. I agree with you, but there's been a lot of smoke over there.
That's fair. But I will say this. Mm-hmm. When you're coming off of an era with the laxness of Willie Taggart, the quitting of Jimbo Fisher, I'm not sure you got the best, your most typical locker room over there. Yeah. You're going to have some malcontents. You're just like, look, how happy were you with Zook's Gators at the end of that tenure?
Sure.
What had happened to that program? What did some of the players and their personalities and their, actions become?
Well, as history will show, Ox Gator and myself saved Florida football and won us 2 natties by disposing of the Zooker for these challenging of the fraternity.
And I'm surprised Frangie's forgiven you yet.
Yeah, he's held a grudge for a long time.
So anyway, and in case you missed it, FSU yesterday, we kind of got right into the story without setting it up. You set it up, but I'm dismissing myself from this conversation. I can't say anything more than I've said.
You can say plenty. Wednesday night, DJ Matthews, who's from Jacksonville, by the way, tweeted that he had tested positive for COVID-19. The tweet was quickly deleted for whatever reason. Norvell said yesterday he didn't tell him to take it down, but coaches, I didn't tell him to take it down.
My assistant did.
Correct.
My strength coach did.
And again, I'm not suggesting that, but I am wondering. He followed Thursday morning with a second tweet suggesting lies within the program. That's DJ Matthews. Terry.
Who had issues with both Taggart and Jimbo.
All right.
When he was at FSU. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily, defines this.
Tamarian Terry retweeted Matthews and offered his own vague concerns, writing, "I can't believe this."
And Tamarian Terry, for those wondering, is like,
he's their star,
like a third round or better draft pick.
Could have gone pro. And Warren Thompson offered some clarity in an open letter to Florida State, saying he had been lied to about testing and health protocols on multiple occasions. Our leadership is based off an I mentality with them only worried about their own future rather than the athletes. I've been ridiculed about speaking up regarding this issue, and it needs to be addressed for myself to safely continue the season.
I assume then that's a message to his own team, because I find it hard to believe that anybody is ridiculed, whatever his name is, seeing that none of us have ever heard of him. He doesn't play for Florida State, so he might be talking within his own, like his teammates are ridiculing him for questioning.
This is the one sentence that I got to have answers on, though. During these entire weeks of camp, I've been lied to multiple times about the conditions of other players' health as well as mine.
If he is right about that, then
that's where I come back to.
Again,
so those tweets all come out, and Norvell's doing a presser like yesterday at 11:30.
Yeah. They were practicing.
He said it was disappointing, saying that he had not read the language specifically. He had been told some content was untrue. Norvell said he did not learn of the tweets until he left practice. We're working through the policies and procedures that are in place for us, Norvell said, but I've been very transparent with every player I've talked to. All right, so, and again,
I've only talked to 4, he did not add.
And that's true. You can tell, but just saying, well, if you don't like it, opt out.
I know
that's not good enough.
Well, I know what the coach is thinking.
That's all I'm saying.
And again, it's maybe an old school mentality, yes. And most, in today's sensibilities of helicopter. I said in the breakdown, it's amazing where we are as a society. We send 20-year-old men off to play college football,
right?
And their mommies helicopter around on social media and otherwise.
Yeah.
And if mom wants to get involved, that's fine.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be public. I mean, I got a hard time playing with a guy whose mommy is tweeting for him tonight.
Florida State has refused to release testing numbers since players returned to campus in June.
To us or to them? You cannot keep it from them.
I think to the media.
Yeah, well, that's fine too.
Well, many other schools, Clemson, Michigan, and Oklahoma, have offered aggregate testing numbers, and Florida has too. FSU has not announced any data. According to sources close to the situation, concerns reached a boiling point Tuesday. That's when they had that round table with the governor. Do you remember the governor went over there?
And FSU said some things that made them look better than they actually are.
And the AD said during the round table that the school was doing weekly testing, and their ears perked up and said, weekly?
Which is also fair.
In fact, the school has not tested that often throughout the summer, and the testing results largely have been kept private, even from the players. Also, you can't do that.
Do
I have it or not?
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't. Maybe one of the players told them. Maybe they're. And again, understand who we're talking about. There's a portal for these things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little work and initiative. Yeah. Someone doesn't walk to your door and knock on it and explain everything to you. You're a 20-year-old man.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the case, but I know that you could go take a test, you or I, and no one's going to come knock on your door and tell you what it is. You're going to have to do some research to find out what the answer is.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that way. Don't get me wrong.
Sources said some players have been tested just 3 or 4 times since returning to campus. Now, they got back to campus in June, the beginning of June, so that is not weekly.
Like every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Norvell, additional concerns were raised when Matthews tested positive for COVID-19 on Wednesday. Players believe Matthews had felt sick prior to testing but was still able to participate in position meetings, which led to quarantines for others. Again, the young man has to say something, but if he's said something and they say, well, just come on in, don't worry about it, sit through this anyway, then that's stupid.
It is. And there is a look, I understand, and this is wrong too if you put, other needs way below your own. But you're a first-year coach in Mike Norvell, dude. You're going to come in, and you're coming in, and you know what the reputation of what's gone wrong here the last 2 or 3 years is.
Yeah.
And we're doing it hardline. It's like Urban following Zook, Dan.
Yeah. And
if a different era back then, we probably would have heard stories a lot worse than you're hearing about Mike Norvell.
Bloody Tuesday.
And again, the price of a successful big-time college football program involves a lot of hurt feelings that we don't talk about, that aren't public, that have nothing to do with the scoreboard that we see on Saturday.
And Urban is not coaching anymore. And maybe it ain't going to work that way
Nick Saban
anymore.
is.
Yeah. Well,
Nick Saban is.
Okay, well, let's see. Weekly testing has not taken place. The players who have tested positive have been told to remain silent.
And I'm not saying, by the way, what I just said, I'm not saying it's the right way.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it is a reality of winning at a high level. It's not, doesn't always feel comfortable. And it's not always right. And I guess we look the other way on it sometimes, but there's a middle ground probably on all this. At the end of the day, the one thing that's undeniable that you brought up, there are problems at Florida State.
Well,
because
yeah.
we're talking about this on August 13th, 14th.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's again, we'll see what happens. So, but that's where we are. That's what's happening.
More than anything,
in
of
Tallahassee.
that entire story, again, there is a culture shock when you change coaches and the different formulas for winning. And again, you stay within the rules. If you're a coach, you've got 1,000 rules to stay within.
Yeah.
But if the Florida State University is testing athletes for coronavirus and not telling them what the test result is, then I will say it again, they should get the death penalty for a year. Yeah. That is 1,000,000% unacceptable. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to believe that they would be that dumb/naive to do that. They would have to know what comes out of not telling kids their own medical information.
Interesting couple of other tidbits here as we go through the sports world. George Kittle got his deal, and then Kansas City turned around
right after.
Said, okay, well, let's take care of our guy, too. The two best tight ends in the NFL. Bang, bang.
You know, and
right?
I marveled a little bit earlier. The golden era of the tight end came and went before our eyes. I mean, there was a time where from Dallas Clark to Jason Witten to Antonio Gates to Tony Gonzalez. I mean, there were some years 8, 9, 10 tight ends that would catch 80 to 100 balls.
Avery Jones yesterday, by the way, said something I wanted to touch on, too, and I'm getting this feeling. The NFL players, contrary to what's going on at FSU, sure seem to get it, right? They know what's – you have the sound bite. Oh, go ahead. Run Avery Jones.
I mean, when we come in this building, we're all brothers and stuff like that. But if you're not doing your thing outside the building and you bring something into us, you know, we're going to be pissed. There's going to be separation in the room, and it's going to divide the team. And that's something we can't have.
Depends on how you get it.
These guys know what's at stake. There's a lot of money at stake here. And these guys want their money. And they're going to – so I just – and if you watched Hard Knocks the other night, both coaches referenced the Marlins.
As an example of what not to do.
Correct. So
what can happen?
So far, so good. And the numbers in the NFL bear that out. They're all down, right? All the testing numbers, the positives are way down. So at least there are some good things happening in as we move forward in the world of sports. It hasn't been easy, but the NBA is going to get through. The NHL is going to get through. Baseball's trying. The Cardinals are supposed to resume tomorrow, I believe, with their 5 games. Meant to play 20
I think after
games.
– you know what, though? After a couple of weeks, you forget that. Like, you don't really feel the Marlins are all that far behind. They may be.
Right.
But as long as you don't feel that as a fan, you can deal with it later down the road.
Well, you will deal with it if, like I said,
I think winning percentage is enough. I think the Cardinals can get to 50 of this. And you know what? There is probably an untold number that baseball had in mind when they started. All right, we're going to have a 60, but we got to make sure they at least get 50.
Well, I know it's 20-5 in my world. What?
I mean, these guys can't get their damn COVID outbreak under control, and they're like, well, let's just ship them around the country for some doubleheaders.
Now, with all that said, the boob of the day, double down boob of the day.
Zach Plesac.
Is Plesac.
I just pulled that up. This guy is unbelievable, man. The 25-year-old posted it. Plesac is the pitcher who, when they were in Chicago with his Cleveland teammates, snuck out and went to dinner with friends, took Jacksonville's Mike Clevenger with him, and then Clevenger, you want to talk about lying, didn't tell anybody, got on the team plane, and then Plesac and Clevenger were found out. And
rightfully so. The Indians kicked him out, made him get on his own quarantine, get out of here. Thanks a lot. And by the way, he's a starter. He's the name's familiar in baseball. He's the nephew of MLB Network's own Dan Plesac, who probably
he was.
Probably has to sit there and be uncomfortable. Hey, let's talk about Zach Plesac, Dan.
Dan, can we talk about your idiot son?
He's not his son. He's his nephew.
Indians.
He's my nephew. He's not my son. That's my idiot brother's kid.
And I hate his wife. He probably came from her.
I never really liked him anyway.
Well, pitcher Adam Plutko said yesterday that
Plutko started in lieu of pitched pretty well.
They heard us. They lied to us. They sat up here.
Called them out. Yeah.
All right. Well, Plesac doubles down and looks even dumber than his initial mistake. Maintains his actions weren't malicious. No one said they were malicious. He and Clevenger practiced social distancing then when they were a small group at dinner afterward. Hey, Plesac, What does that prove? You're not allowed to go out.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many were in the group.
Yeah.
What about all your teammates? You don't think they'd like to go out for a small
Because, by the way,
get together?
For MLB, not for NFL, but for MLB, the money really kicks in the postseason. That's where the owners and everybody's going to sort of recoup some dollars.
Although he didn't
$1
deny
billion for that TV payout.
Yeah.
Although he didn't deny breaking the team's code of conduct, well, that's where the story ends, Dodo Plesac. Your team is all living by rules that you think you don't have to. But then he says reports about him and Clevenger have not been fair. Quote, the media is terrible, man.
Yeah.
They do some evil things to
and
create
by the way,
stories.
sometimes the media is terrible, okay? Sometimes.
This isn't one of them.
This isn't one of them.
This is your teammate who brought this to attention.
Plesac.
Yeah.
You brought this on
I
yourself.
love this. They do some evil things to create stories and make things sound better and make things sound worse. Dear Plesac, you are not worth the creative juices to inspire a story.
Hey, Plesac.
Shut up, Plesac.
Plesac. And by the way, one last thing on Plesac. He did this soliloquy while driving without a seatbelt on. Just on a side note.
He's a sharp guy. He's a sharp guy.
Demonstrate the moron that is Plesac.
Really the black sheep of the Plesac clan.
Yes. Listen, let's go to break. That's the 10-minute drill. Let's do caller number 3. I got a Dan Hicken stat of the day come back in and a tip of the cap for a streak that came to an end last night.
All right,
too.
I have a Shazam spotlight, and I'm curious if it'll be the Dan Hicken stat of the day.
Oh.
We shall see where
Wow, it's a challenge.
where the friendshipometer is pegging today when we return on an All-American Friday.
641-1010. Tell them what they're going to win, Beef.
Call number 3 right now, 641-1010. Going to go home with a beautiful floral arrangement from our friends over at Kuhn Flowers. So take the time and make someone else's day. Be call number 3 right now, 641-1010.